Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with the patch breakdown for patch 5.2 together with the hotfixes. So now I was a little bit busy when the patch came out last week, but kind of the benefit of doing the patch notes late, also of course I get to go through the hotfix changes which just came out a couple hours ago, and of course I also get to talk about all of the rest of the patch changes, and also because we've already had this patch for like a week or so, I can also give some thoughts on how the patch is going so far. So starting off with first up, Lissandra, the new champion. So now of course she's been on the Rift for a week already, and basically from what I see from her, of course there are still a ton of people learning her, and so far like 2 out of 3 Lissandras I see have no idea what they're doing, so they look pretty bad, but 1 out of 3 pretty decent. So far from what I can see, I believe that she is strong. I just think that people haven't really learned how to play her yet, haven't really learned when to go in on her and when not to, things like that. But from what I noticed, she does a really good amount of damage, considering that Lissandra has a lot of utility in the sense that her ult, you know, is kind of utility, her W is a stun, is kind of utility, and her E is technically just a dash. So she really only has her Q as her main damage spell, and of course if you ult an enemy, it's gonna do a ton of damage as well. But from what I see, I think her damage numbers are pretty decent, just that people need to get a little bit better on her, but I think she's a pretty strong champion. So of course the new rank season has already begun. The new wild pass for Food Spirits Amumu has already started. Pretty cute skin. And we have this new item recommendation feature. Basically what it is when you go to the store and you click on an item, you have the option to recommend it to a teammate. You click that, it's going to ask you which teammate you want to recommend it to, and when you tap that, they are going to receive a message on the upper right hand corner of their screen, and it's going to tell them that this person recommended this item to you, and you can accept or reject that item recommendation. I actually think it's pretty decent, only in very specific scenarios where, for example, you want to recommend some anti-shield item like Serpent's Fang, or like the Oceanus Trident, or you want to recommend anti-heal, things like that. I don't really think you want to micromanage what your team is building, but I guess if that's your style, I guess you could do that. But I think the most useful is to recommend anti-shield and anti-heal items. Interesting QR code to team up. Like for example, if you are playing with people in real life, I assume that they can scan the code and join your lobby. Looking for a party basically has a couple of optimizations. Now I don't really use this, so I don't really quite care. But for people who like to look for parties and play, it's basically going to be a little bit easier. And all champions are free to play until the start of next month. Of course, this allows you to try a lot of the champions and things like that, so really useful. There is a new single player mode. I haven't personally tried it, but supposedly you have basically you have yourself with 4 AIs against another 5 AIs, and you can even play when you're not connected to the internet. Now I think that this is actually it's actually kind of like, on the one hand it's kind of useless in the sense that you're playing with AIs versus AIs, but on the other hand, you do have situations where you don't have internet. For example, you're overseas and you don't have data, or you are like on the plane and you don't have internet, things like that. You know, perhaps this actually could be useful if you really want to play Wild Rift and you don't have internet. So yeah, I'm gonna assume that you can't have transgressions like AFKing in this game mode or just leaving it. I assume you can quit this game anytime because you're with AIs, and versus AIs it's literally single player. So I'm gonna assume that. Now we have this event, Advent of Winter. Pretty simple event. Just complete some daily missions and some Lissandra specific missions if you so choose, and you can basically get you know, all of these rewards. And of course this is the brand new currency. I forgot what it's called, but this is the brand new currency that you can use in the new like Hextech store. Another event here is the Rift Adventure and Rift Reborn. Now Rift Adventure isn't really an event. It's kind of just an event that shows all of the events, so it's really not even an event at all. And the Rift Reborn challenge is just basically you use all of the new features like the new heralds, the new barons, and the new loot boxes, things like that, and the new hex gate to basically just get rewards. Pretty simple event. So champion changes, not a lot of them. First up we have Darius. Now Darius, his Q and his ulti are getting a couple of buffs. So basically on his Q, he got a little bit of a small base damage buff, and also on the, of course, the circle area, also a pretty okay like 10 damage buff. The ratios pretty much remain the same. It's really only the base damage that's gone up. I have played like with and against a decent number of Darius. I don't really notice any big change because Darius wasn't really very popular before the patch anyway. So yeah. Anyways, we have his ulti. His ulti is getting its base damage increased by a decent amount. I think this is the one that's really going to be a bigger change, because this is going to make it easier for him to actually get resets and things like that. So I think that this is probably a a pretty okay change. I don't think Darius was that strong, so I think this is a pretty alright change. Now Garen has been really strong, so his base health going down by 20. His passive regen is actually going down from 2% plus 0.2% per level missing health to now 1% plus 0.3% per level missing health. So basically it's going to be weaker at the early levels, but in the later levels it's going to kind of level out to roughly the same amounts. I think this is a pretty good change because one of Garen's big strengths is that you can just walk away for a while and just regen up in the lane. His Q cooldown is now actually having a scaling cooldown. So it used to be 8 seconds at all levels and used to last 3 seconds at all levels. And now it's at rank 1, it's actually going to be 9 seconds, then 8.5, then 8. But it's going to go to 7.5. Now a lot of abilities have gotten this change from Riot, where it now has the scaling cooldown. And the bigger part, I think, is the duration. Instead of 3 seconds at all levels, it's going to go from 2 to 2.5 to 3 to 3.5. Basically, this is going to be just a nerf to Garen's laning phase, because as you can see at the later stages, it evens out and then it even becomes better, scales even better. But of course, the Q is not the first ability you max your E first, and therefore your Q is going to get stuck at a weaker rank in the laning phase. But after laning phase, you probably max your Q second for most people. W second max is also possible, but most people max Q second, and as such, this is going to mean that your Q is pretty much going to be the same when you reach like the mid levels, like let's say level 8, level 9, things like that. And the damage reduction on the W is going from 80% to 70%. Now, of course, I think Garen has been one of the top Baron laners for pretty much like a year now, or like maybe not that long, but somewhere close to that. So I really think he do needs a couple around more of nerfs, because items are really strong on him. He's really strong. And I think Kalista is getting very, very huge. I like to call it buffs, because I really think that it is a buff. So first up, optimize the mechanic where Ren goes into cooldown when Kalista takes down a target with it. I'm not quite sure what that is. I thought that Ren was supposed to reset when you take down a target with Ren, but I'm not quite sure. This seems to imply that it's not supposed to be. Maybe it's only on minions and not on champions. So if you Ren a champion, it doesn't actually reset. I don't know. But next up, we have optimized the timer display at the indicator when at the indicator bar when Kalista is tethered to an ally. I really don't know what this is. I played Kalista in the new patch. I haven't noticed anything different. Maybe I'm just blind. But this is the big buff. So optimize the... Oops, we don't want that. Optimize the display of health threshold when Kalista executes enemy champions with Ren. Now, basically what this is Kalista's gonna get something like what Pyke or Evelynn has, where they have that line where when you're under that line, if you cast your like spell, it is going to kill the person. So basically that line, obviously with Kalista, the more kind of spear she has, the higher health the threshold will be. So the line's gonna constantly move up until you reach a point where that line exceeds the health, and then you can just press E and they're just gonna die. Now this is going to be a huge change. You've already seen that in my Kalista updated complete guide, that it pretty much just tells you when you can execute it, so you don't really have to guess, or you don't really have to use your skill to kind of count how many spears are in there. You just need to look at the indicator. So it definitely makes it a lot more easy to play Kalista. And next up, Maokai. So Maokai gets another round of nerfs. He's been still really strong after that first round. His base health goes down by 30, magic resist per level down from 2.5 to 2, and his Q damage is getting decreased again. So this time the base stats are going down just a little bit, and the pretty much everything else remains the same. Of course, the percent health also reduces by a little bit, but I think that even with these changes, Maokai is still really strong. I have said this in my last patch video, which I think that they're going to nerf him bit by bit. So it's going to take some time for him to get weak, but I still think he's really strong even after this. Now Riven, the cooldown on her Q is going down by 1 second. I don't really think this makes a very big difference, and the bonus attack damage on her ult is going up by 5%. Now this is actually a pretty big difference. I actually think Riven is really strong already ever since she got that rework where she can reset her ult on kill. It's just that again, Riven is not a very popular champion. Not too many people play Riven, but when you encounter one of those good Rivens, you definitely know it, and you definitely can see her taking over games, especially from the jungle role where she can roam very easily to a lot of other lanes. So ARAM, yeah, apparently there's a new Hextech ARAM mode that's going to be coming soon. Now, arena changes, I'm not going to talk too much about this. Although I do play a decent amount of arena when it is out. Now, battlefield changes. Now, here is where we get to the interesting, basically the interesting changes of the patch. So first up, we have a Hex Gate. So Hex Gate basically goes from the Crux to the blue buff or wolves area kind of. And at the 430 mark, you can start using the hex gates, and hex gates will be on cooldown for 40 seconds. Now, what this does not say is that the cooldown on the hex gate for 40 seconds is not a cooldown that's specific to your champion, because in PC, each hex gate has a cooldown specific to your champion. So for example, if you used it, your teammate or your enemy can use the same hex gate that you used. But in Wild Rift, only one person can take the hex gate, and the entire hex gate goes on cooldown. So what this means is, if for example me as an ADC want to roam with my support to Herald, I take the hex gate, my support cannot do that. She or he has to walk all the way over to the Herald itself. So this is a pretty strange one. I thought that they will follow PC. I'm not quite sure why they didn't, but I think this makes hex gates a lot weaker than what I thought it was, because now I think the main way to use hex gates is actually for the jungler to, for example, he can clear blue side, like he can clear blue wolves, and then he can hex gate over to red side and start clearing his red side from the crux up, for example. Or in an instance where he's on the wrong side of the map when there is an objective coming, he can hex gate over to steal objectives. Now this has been done. I've been a victim of it, and I've also had my teammates do it multiple times where you can hex gate over. Like for example, in previous patches, you have an instance where the jungler is on the opposite side of the map from Baron, and you realize it and you quickly start Baron. And then this patch, if you do that and the jungler realizes it, he actually doesn't get punished as hard because he can hex gate over to contest the Baron, for example, and that has happened. So overall, I just think it makes the game a little bit easier for the jungler, because I think the jungler is the main user of the hex gate. So Hex Tech Toolkit. Now this is going to be a long one to talk about. Basically, during early game from 1 minute 10 to 8 minutes, as long as the outer turret has not been destroyed, the Hex Tech Toolkit will periodically spawn in the lane. So where the minion waves meet. Now this is the key part, where the minion waves meet. So if you guys were wondering, why does the toolkit sometimes randomly spawn more towards one side than the other, it's because it spawns where the minion waves meet. So basically, if you're getting pushed in, you're more likely to be able to get the toolkit, because it's meant to kind of help you a little bit since you're getting pushed in. Which is a little bit weird, because some people like to freeze the wave outside tower, and it's only going to give you a bigger advantage. But we're not going to talk about that. But another key part is when both teams' outer turrets have not been destroyed. So I'm not sure if this is when the first tower goes down that the toolkits stop spawning, or is it in the lane that the tower goes down, the toolkits stop spawning. I'm not quite sure about that. I still haven't really noticed. But yeah. So yeah. So basically, you need to stand on it for a little bit, and then the toolkit itself lasts for 50 seconds. Now, from my experience, no one ever lets it expire. Someone is going to take it, so this is not really too big of a problem. Now, the bigger problem is you get the single-use tool. Now, if you don't use it within 45 seconds, the tool will expire. Now, 45 seconds sounds like a long time, but from my experience, whenever you get it, you're sort of in a hurry to use it, because 45 seconds doesn't sound short, but it actually kind of is, because you rarely get a perfect opportunity to use any of your kits. Like for example, first one, super active reagent, you can either reduce size by 30% and increase movement speed by 30%. So ideally you want to use this when for example, your jungle is ganking, you want to run someone down, or if you want to run away. But the issue with this is you get a random one, so you could increase your size by 35% and deal 15% more damage as well. So that could, not be a good thing as well. So it's not very reliable. Now next up, the minion disposal unit, which is basically dematerializer from PC. You basically instantly kill target minions. Now this one is probably the easiest to use, because if you're getting pushed in, you might want to just use this so you don't get dived. If you're pushing, you want to use this to push faster. This one's pretty easy to use. Now Hextech Tracker basically is the old Twin Shadows. You basically launch 2 trackers, which on contact is going to reveal them and slow them for 30% for up to 5 seconds based on the distance traveled. And next up is the mood module. So now I think this one is a really interesting one. All allied champions get a small amount of gold, and I think small amount goes like about 3 to 5 gold, I believe. And after 3 seconds, they restore 15% of their missing health. Now this one's pretty useful because it's kind of like a global Soraka ult, which is going to be more helpful the lower health someone is. So this one's I think it's like one of the better ones, depending on who gets it and depending on when they use it. But I think the best one is this one, the Siege Cannon. So Siege Cannon fires 3 cannonballs into turrets, and each cannonball deals true damage equal to 7% of the turret's max health. Now I believe the Siege Cannon gets you 1 plate, almost 2 plates I believe, so it's insane. But again, since it only lasts for 45 seconds, sometimes you never get into a position where you can launch the Siege Cannon. The game's not going to allow you to put it down under your own turret or at a random position. You have to be near the enemy turret to put this down. So even though it's the best one, you need to be in a position where you can actually use it. So next up, Exploding Puppets. I think this is the most useless one. I've got this so many times, and so far, out of like the actually not many times, but out of the like 5 times that I got it, no one ever stepped on my puppet. So basically you spawn a puppet that lasts for a minute. When it is killed by enemy or expires, it explodes and deals damage to them. So basically it's a little bit like a Teemo shroom that's visible to the enemy team. But the thing is, no one ever walks into it for some reason. Even when I put it at the edge of the bush, somehow no one walks into the bush. So anyways, I think it's pretty useless. Now, deceleration rate is somewhat useful. It basically puts down a laser that shoots out a ray after the shot delay, deals a little bit of magic damage, and slows them for 30% for 2 seconds. Now, this one's actually pretty interesting because this one is actually pretty difficult to dodge. It almost 100% of the time hits. And this one, you can actually use it to engage because I think the main use is slowing them for 30% for 2 seconds. This ray is going to allow your support to engage for you, or it's going to allow you to start running them down. I think this is the main use of the ray. The damage is kind of negligible, but the slow is actually pretty great. So next up, Herald is getting replaced by the Gorilla Turret as well as the Mimic. So we're gonna kind of go through this pretty quickly because basically it's kind of like basically telling you what attacks it can do. Now I think this one is not something we really need to go through. When you play, you are kind of gonna realize what it does. Basically, it auto attacks you. You can shoot a laser and missiles as well. So what it does when you get it, this is kind of important. So basically, like the Herald, whoever kills it is going to be able to store it at their ward spot. Now, when you press it, it's going to summon like the Herald. Basically, it will start attacking the minion wave, and then after that, it will target enemy turrets. So basically, this Gorilla Turret has 100 energy, and it is going to deplete when it like walks and fires and things like that. So engaging turrets cost 6 energy per second, and you know, it basically you're going to use energy, and when you run out of energy, it's going to self-destruct, or if the enemy team kills it. Basically, this is a DPS version of Herald instead of a burst version of Herald, because Herald, when it collides, is going to just burst on the turret. This is going to DPS. Now, which one is better? My opinion is that Herald is better because getting the burst down and instantly getting all the plates is always going to be good. Whereas for this one, you have to push with it for a prolonged period of time. But the kind of good thing about this one is you can push down a lot of towers if you are able to push with it. So I have had an instance where it took tier 1 tower, tier 2 tower, and inhibitor tower just with one Hextech Gorilla turret. Now, of course, the enemy team had to completely ignore it, which is what they did, but it is possible. So there is that. So now, yeah, so it has a base stats hotfix, I guess because it's a little bit too weak. Now, the Mimic is a pretty interesting one. So this is a little bit more similar to the old Herald, in which it does a burst, but it's basically, it basically gives 3 micro mimics to the killer, and it's gonna spawn the micro mimic core behind outer turrets, which will despawn after 4 minutes. Now, when someone picks up, it's gonna also give them 3 micro mimics. So in total, your team gets 4 times 3 micro mimics. So 4 people get 3 micro mimics. And when you go near a turret, the micro mimics will jump onto the tower and explode and deal a decent amount of damage. I think it gives you about 2 plates worth of gold. So yeah, so you cannot take the mimic cores if you already have micro mimics following you. Basically, you can only have 3 at a time. You can't have 3 and then 6, you know, something like that. So again, you'll fully run for 4 minutes and will disappear if they are unable to launch an attack. Now, this thing sounds good in theory, but it's been making a lot of people in. I've seen so many people, including myself in one of my games, you had the mimics and you really want to proc it, you just walk into the tower range to proc the mimics and you get yourself out of position. Now, this is kind of start of patch problems where people will adapt to it eventually, but for now, people are kind of inting because of the mimics and also because of the loot boxes for that matter. They are standing in bad positions to take them. So Baron is getting changed. So basically, when you slay Baron, you still get the same Hand of Baron buff that boosts your AD and AP, reduces recall time, but apparently doesn't buff your defenses anymore, according to this. Although in the game, I swear that when I read the bottom of what it does say it buffs defenses, so I'm not quite sure. Anyway, slaying Baron strengthens the cannon minions in your next minion wave, so only the next minion wave, and slaying a Baron drops a TX mecha at your nexus. So what does the TX mecha do? Well, let's go over here. Basically, when you stand on it, you're going to go into the TX mecha. It's going to have its own abilities and its own stats. So when the timer runs out, or if enemy team destroys it, you're going to get ejected after like a 2-second delay or so, which most of the time is going to mean you're going to get surrounded by enemies and die instantly. And your perspective is elevated. Now, that's not really important. I haven't really noticed a noticeable change. And your movement speed is slower. Yes, you are walking really slow. You do not get affected by enemy debuffs or ally buffs. So basically, enemy cannot like reduce your movement speed, cannot CC you, but your allies also cannot increase your health, increase your movement speed, anything. Basically, it's just Basically, it is simply just a fixed in terms of cannot get buffed, cannot get debuffed. Also, the damage that it takes is a percentage of its health. So obviously, it basically just means it has a health bar. So it deals less damage to neutral monsters. Basically, it means that you can't take the TX mecha and use it to do dragon or something like that. You can, but it's not going to do a lot of damage. So this is the most important part. Enemies have vision of you when you pilot the TX mecha. Basically, they know where you're going. They know exactly where you are because they can see you on the map. So this kind of ruins the element of surprise in the sense that you can't go like top in, when they thought you're going mid because they can see you on the map. So they're going to know where you are. And most of the time, this just leads to an ARAM. Or an ARAM in a lane that's not mid, where everybody is just fighting there, and there's pretty much no macro anymore. I actually think that as strategy evolves, I actually think that there is probably going to be macro where you don't want to go to the TX lane and you want to just push other lanes and use the TX as a distraction, or otherwise let the TX take the towers itself while you distract them instead. And the TX mecha can empower nearby minions and grant them damage reduction and increase their attack damage. So that's kind of the main reason why you want to push with the mecha. Now, what I will say about the mecha is I think that it is horrible. Now, the first problem about the mecha is the mecha itself, right? So basically what it does is it has a number of attacks. So basic attack is a Gatling shot, really hard to hit because it's really slow, really low range. Second one, missile blitz. Basically it's an AoE that bombards an area with missiles. Really easy to dodge as well. Doesn't really do a lot of damage at all. Amplifying field grants movement speed and shield buffs to nearby teammates. This one is actually useful. Iron Tail Sweep. Sweeps the tail in the cone, knocking back enemies. Cooldown is now 8 seconds. This one is really useless because most enemies are never going to stand right near you where you can whack them with your tail because they're scared of you. They're going to stand far away. So this is basically almost like a non-ability at this point. Laser Ray charges and fires a ray. You can move slowly when casting the ability. You can attack towers with this ability as well. Attacking enemies, really impossible to use this because everyone is just going to walk away. No one's going to stand there and get hit by the laser. And hitting towers, probably no more useful way, but this means that they're just going to free DPS you because you're hitting the tower. Now, so the first problem is who to write the mecha. Well, the problem with that is ADCs and mages probably shouldn't write the mecha because your team needs your damage. Support probably shouldn't write the mecha because they need your buffs or your engage. And most of the time, the jungler is probably the best person to write the mecha, but that is the first problem. Who to write the mecha in terms of your role. Secondly, who to write the mecha in terms of your KDA. Now, for example, if your ADC is 0 and 10, your ADC probably should be writing the mecha because they're pretty useless anyway, and probably it's best to take the mecha. However, this leads me to the next big problem, which is that the mecha is kind of useless. Now, even a 0 and 10 ADC is probably more useful than the mecha. I say that in terms of the fact that the mecha barely does any damage, any meaningful damage, and it doesn't really do very much other than being a distraction. So, I kind of think that the mecha is horrible. I think that I have had games where lately people just ignore the mecha and no one is writing the mecha, which basically means you took Baron just for the base stat increase, which is not nothing, but it just feels so horrible. Yeah, the mecha is kind of trash, but yeah, they tried to change it. What have they given it? More base AD, so maybe it will actually do damage now. Let's see, more movement speed. 50 movement speed, not gonna change all that much. Yeah, so yeah, okay, so anyways, turrets, anti-backdoor projection mechanism, it's basically increasing, so the damage reduction is gonna go up, so it's even harder to backdoor now, and damage amplification of turrets attacking champions is going up now, so a little bit harder to tower dive because turret is gonna do more damage. And max damage amplification going up as well. Inhibitor turret is getting a little bit more tanky in terms of both its actual tank stats and its health. Nexus is also getting more tanky, which honestly, most of the time doesn't make too much of a difference. Because most of the time, if the game can be ended, it just can be ended. But sometimes on those very tight games where you have a 1 HP Nexus, this is going to actually matter. But yeah. So the Scorpion now has a minimap countdown and icon, so you can kind of tell when the Scorpion is spawning. And added a VFX when the champion cannot summon it after being attacked. Because if you guys didn't know, you have to not get attacked for the past 3 seconds, not be in combat for like 3 seconds before you can summon it. So yep. Okay, so now new items. So the first new item is Sundered Sky. Now costs 2900, gives you 40 AD, 15 haste, and 300 max health. And there's the build path. The first attack against an enemy champion critically strikes, dealing 160% damage and restoring health to you. So I think this is actually a pretty decent item, especially on certain champions, certain bruisers in the top lane, like Aatrox, for example. Really strong item on Aatrox. Basically, it's going to allow you to deal one very high damage attack at the start to burst them down, and it also is going to restore health, which is actually very helpful, because restoring health is unique per champion. So basically, if you're in a team fight, you attack different champions, you're going to restore a lot of health. So I think Sundered Sky, pretty decent, pretty good item. Eclipse, though, I think is a pretty horrible item. So 2900 now gives 60 AD, 20 ability haste. Now 60 AD is a decent chunk of AD. However, the passive, when you hit an enemy champion with 2 separate attacks or abilities within 1.8 seconds, which is pretty easy, pretty much everyone can do it, it's going to deal bonus physical damage equal to 6% of your target's max health. Of course, half for ranged champions, and grants you a shield that is 160 plus 40% of your AD. Of course, range also gets half for 2 seconds. However, it just feels like this shield is pretty useless, and it just feels that this doesn't really do that much damage. So I think other items are simply better. I think Eclipse pretty bait at the moment. Psychic Projector, pretty interesting. Apparently, it's very strong. I haven't actually seen it built in any of my games, but it's 3100. It's really pricey. Gives 300 health, 60 AP, magic pen, and ability haste. And you gain ability power equal to now is 3% of your bonus health. So, this is a death cap replacement item. So if you build this, you can't build death cap and vice versa. So only champions that don't want to build death cap anyway are going to build this. So for example, champions like Singed. For example, Singed never built death cap, so he can definitely build this. But honestly, this is not really a mage item, because even though it's magic damage, all mages want death cap because it's just so much AP. It turns out that it's like non-mage champions, like for example, Jax, who now also builds AP, or benefits from AP, and he builds a lot of health. Or like Singe, who, you know, builds a lot of health as well. Champions like that. Of course, Mordekaiser, who's going to be out later on. Yeah, so this is kind of a very niche item that I don't think more than 5 champions in the game are going to build. So yeah, so when, by the way, what it does is, when you take champion damage, you gain a shield that is going to absorb some of their damage. It triggers every 3 seconds. So it's actually really strong, because you get bonus AP equal to your health, and you get more tanky. So this is actually a pretty strong item. Oh, wait a minute. Psychic Projector no longer conflicts with Rabadon's death cap. Okay, so now maybe some people are gonna build it. But okay, even so, I maybe got a little bit too excited there. But even so, still not a lot of mages build a lot of health. So still, it's not gonna be an item that everybody builds. It's gonna be a very niche item still. But this is a pretty interesting change. Revenant's Hydra is a new item. I haven't tried it, and I've not seen anybody try it as well. It has gotten hotfix, so you're gonna deal adaptive damage equal to 110% of your AD and 30% of your AP to nearby enemies, and restore health by 30% of your damage dealt. I really cannot comment on this because I've not seen it at all. It seems decent for wave clear or like big team fights, like maybe some huge drain tank like Aatrox or Jax that wants to jump into the middle of the enemy team might benefit from it, but they're probably better in chance, so I probably don't think this is gonna be very good. So, of course, all the Light and Ruin items get removed, and the base version of the items are back, which basically makes some items like IE Horrible back again. Unchanged items Terminus remains as an item, and Horizon Focus actually gets the Light Horizon Focus rework, which basically makes Horizon Focus a pretty good item now. So they are nerfing the boots to, instead of giving you just 10% or 12%, which by the way used to be 15% when it released, is now 7 to 10% and 7 to 12%. Honestly, it kind of doesn't change much in a sense, because most of the time it's either the junglers or the top laners who are building defensive boots. So if both top laners build defensive boots, it's going to be equal on both sides anyways most of the time. So generally this change is not going to affect all that much, but it is a pretty interesting change. Now rune changes. Now Hex Flash is now getting a 25-second cooldown, and the Flash is now going to 150 units. So now this means that people like ADCs or mages probably don't want to take Hex Flash anymore, which is why I kind of stopped taking it. And then we have some system or optimizations. I honestly don't think this is too important. Yeah, nothing is too interesting here. Tutorial optimizations. Yeah, not relevant to most people unless you're a really new player. Yeah, so yeah, honestly, nothing too much is important here, but we have a couple new skins. Garden Party is already out. Debonair Jace, and it's probably already out, just that I haven't noticed it at all. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. Let's see if anything is crucial here. A lot of Callista bugs, apparently, but yeah. So anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, even though it technically came out like a week late. But I did still get to talk about it and give you my more refined views now that we've seen the patch itself. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.